Bronze Age artist Ken Landgraf here, and I'm going to be showing you how to use reference when doing an inking. Now, it doesn't really matter how the pose was created. You could swipe it. You could move the arm down like here, for instance, so it doesn't look like the original pose. You could exaggerate the hands, make it bigger, and you could do anything. It doesn't matter where the pose came. Or you could look at another drawing, like put a different arm here. So that's not important how the pose was created. What's important now is how do you do the inking? Okay, so I'm looking at this, but I also have put photocopies of Wally Wood. I always look at Wally Wood. I'm looking at how he did this arm over Gil Kane. What you'll notice is there's a side plane, and then it turns, feathers going away, getting lighter and lighter. That's the front of the block. That's the top of the block, the side of the block, and the front. What he did here is, look, instead of drawing like a line, he did it in feathering. So I'm looking at that, and I'm also looking at how he did the fist, because I want to incorporate some of this and learn something. Gil Kane told me never, ever, when you're working in your studio, just ink out of your head or draw out of your head. Look at Byrne Hogarth, look at Wally Wood, look at Russ Heath, look at Lou Fine, look at Reed Crandall, so you can learn something while you're drawing. It's another thing when you're at a comic convention, and you have to be able to make up the figure. Of course, now the new artists can go on their phones and look at reference. I see them doing it all the time. Back in the early days, there was no such thing. You had to clip panels from comic books to draw these characters. So you might have to have a drawing of Thor so you knew what the heck his costume was in color. You had to make up the pose unless you were going to copy the clip that you took from the comic book. So I'd bring like Scarlet Witch, I'd bring like the Hulk, I'd bring pictures of all sorts of characters, so I had some idea of how to draw them. You can't memorize these costumes, so if I had to draw like the female version of Thor, no way could I memorize that. I'd have to look at the costume. What did the hammer look like from different views? Okay, so getting back to this now, I'm looking at the drawing I'm going to do. I'm looking at his arm. Now I'm looking at here what Wood did. Lines, lines, and then fading off into something. So I'm going to do that, but in my own style. Lines, lines, and fading off into a line. And what I'll do here is see that wristband. I'm going to throw a shadow from the wristband. Okay, and I'm looking over here. What did he do for the extensor muscle? Okay, so I'll outline the line here. Yeah, I'm just looking at this for ideas and not copying it. Learning is what you're doing. You're learning. So let's go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Also, don't listen to what any of your friends might say. They might say, oh, you're copying this. No, you're not. Using reference and you're learning. Your friends, first of all, are probably going to be losers. They're never going to be comic artists. All they'll do is shooting their mouth off and never become anything. So don't even listen to them. They'll say like, oh, don't copy. What are you looking at that guy for? Well, it's because you want to learn. So look at what Wood did here. Lines, lines, and lines. So let's go do this. Now, of course, I could have done this out of my head. I've been drawing for like, I don't know, since 1970-something. So that's a long time. Now I'm looking at the bicep here. What did Wood do? Oh, he's got a heavy, heavy shadow, and he's going around the form, and he goes into light when he does the end of the muscle. Look at that. All right, so let's see if I incorporate that and learn. Drawing in the muscle. And let's see, I'll put a few lines here. Oh, that looks great. And maybe I'll render some more lines. Maybe I'll do some longer lines to short lines. All right, so far that looks really super professional. Well, what did he do for the elbow? Let's see. I blacked it in. I don't know if I'm going to do that. And down here for the tricep area, he left a white line. Okay, so I like that. Again, it doesn't matter how the pose was achieved. Who cares? You could have swiped it, or you could have moved arms. You could look at a comic book and see a different head for Nova. I'm keeping this classical, so I'm pretty much keeping it like the early John Buscema stuff, Sal Buscema. Oh, that looks really good. And look what I'm doing. I'm dipping in my Pentel pocket brush. There it is. Made in Japan. And I dip it into any ink, even though it has a cartridge, because I want the ink to be controlled. Also, what I did is I sprayed Windex into the ink, and I also have a container of water. So I want that ink to constantly flow. I don't want to put down a brush line that's a dead line or a dirty line. All right, so that looks good. And maybe what I'll do is I'll improvise now. I took a lot of stuff from wood, but maybe I'll put lines downward. Okay, so let's take a look at a fist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my drawings here, my Gil Kane ink by Wally Wood. I'm going to look at how he did a fist. Okay, that one I don't like because it's the wrong view. I'm going to look at this. This is a similar shot to what I just sketched down for the female Nova. Look. Okay, he's using shadows here. Okay, and what do? You ink the knuckles a certain way? So I'm looking at this. I'm not just going to draw this cold. I could, of course, but I want to learn because Gil Kane, the master, told me to do this. Why would I listen to anybody else saying, oh, that's cheating? I remember there was, like, morons in comic store. They used to say, like, if you use Zipatone, that was cheating. I couldn't stand it. It made me really angry. I mean, how dumb can you be? Zipatone was a technique. They're like saying that Wally Wood was cheating when he was doing the EC work. I couldn't believe these guys. You should hear all the stupid stuff that comic fans say because they're not artists. They don't know what it's like to make a living as an artist. And they couldn't do it anyways. That's why they were just comic fans. So I like the idea of that black shadow. Well, I did that by accident. Left that little white space. I love it. Okay, so let's see what I'm going to do here. What did Wood do? Let me get a few lines there for the knuckle. Okay, let's try that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line and leave a space. I like that better. So I want to show the yellow of the costume. And I want to ink on the side of the hand here. Let's look at this other hand. Inking on the middle of the fingers. And of course, what I've done since this is a Ken Landgraf job, I put in all sorts of Zipatones, whiteout stars, and Zipatone on the costume. Look at that. Okay, so I hope you learned something. If you like what I did, please subscribe to my channel. Ken Landgraf signing off.